Many years ago, I used to go to the Oklahoma City Fairgrounds, down at the horse barns, and I would work the rodeo events. I was just getting started. So I would take my portable table and I would adjust all the cowboys or anybody that wanted an adjustment. I would just work with them. And many of these people, they drove from Oklahoma City from all over the country for these events. They all had chiropractors at home, but you can imagine driving 1,500 miles and going through these events. They needed an adjustment. So I would set up and do that. Well, along the way, I learned to adjust horses. And I would see several of them. Well, this one particular day, a gentleman came over to me and said, "Hey, my son hurt his shoulder, his horse threw him. Will you mind taking a look at him?" So they brought the boy over and I looked at his shoulder and I addressed it. And he said, "By chance, do you check horses also?" And I said, and I said, yes. And so they went and got him and brought this horse to me. You need to understand, this wasn't just a horse. This was a very, expensive, over $100,000 horse. It had a rider, a trainer, a massage therapist, an acupuncturist, a nutritionist, had its own personal vet. I mean, this was a pretty big deal, right? And these people were looking at me like, okay, what are you going to do to this horse? And so I had the crowd surrounded me. So, but when they brought the horse up, if you've ever been around horses, and I was raised on the farm, I was raised around horses, and you know that when there's a problem, they'll let you know. The tail is in the air, the ears are straight back, and the eyes are huge, and he was just jumpy. So I started asking what happened. Well, what the boy, when he pulled back on the reins to stop his horse during this event, it pulled the neck, and then the horse went crazy and threw him. So everybody was, watching him, and he was real skittish, and it took me a minute. I had to take my time, one step at a time, and I finally get up to him, and I put my hands around his shoulders, and I just kind of pat him on the side, and I slowly start working my way up his neck. And this took a while, because again, he's really skittish and really scared, and obviously he's in pain. Well, I get up to the atlas, and on an atlas and a horse, it's called the poles, and it's huge. And so his right atlas had dropped straight down. And when the young man pulled the reins, it pulled his head and it pulled that atlas down. So what I did was I reached up and grabbed the harness, and there was a man that had a rope on his harness, and he was holding him. And I just slowly reached up and I grabbed the harness with my right hand and I pulled tension. And I took my left hand and I put it under the atlas. I spread my feet and I planted them. And I took a great big deep breath. And as I let out, I come up and I set that atlas with everything I had. And I mean, it moved. Well, when I did that, the horse flipped out and jumped straight up in the air and kicked with all 4 feet. Well, I felt him move. As soon as I adjusted, I felt him go backwards, and I tried to take a step back, but I wasn't fast enough, and his front leg came up and caught me right in the chest and knocked me straight backwards. I tell this story a lot, and as I'm telling it, I reflect back. I remember laying there going, okay, this is how I'm going to die. I've been kicked by a horse. I mean, and I caught my breath, and I sat up, and the scene that I looked at, I'll never forget. That horse went straight backwards, and they're trying to hold him with that harness, and he's all over the place, and everyone is surrounding the horse. All those people were worried about that horse. I looked around, and there was not one person that checked on me to make sure I was okay. I thought, are you kidding me with this? So I stood up, I dusted myself off, and I walked back over to where I was standing when I adjusted. And we just watched, and we just waited. Now, you picture this scene. It's a huge barn. There's thousands of people there. Just everybody's warming up. Everybody's getting ready. No one's really paying attention. But all those people that were around this horse, it was time stood still. It was like you could hear a pin drop. And we just watched. And as I stood there, he calmed down, and that horse walked right back up to me and put his head right in my chest. He just laid his head in my chest. And I reached up and I patted him on the side of the neck, and I turned to the dad and I said, "That'll be $50." And at the moment, I didn't really fully understand the magnitude of what just happened, right? That horse was saying thank you. I'll never forget that moment. And one of the trainers that was there, one of the guys that was with him, I'll never forget, he's standing there, he said, if I hadn't have seen that with my own eyes, I absolutely wouldn't have believed it. And I was just trying to recover from the moment, right? And then all these years later, I reflect back on that. Innately, when you put motion in an area of the spine of any entity that has an innate intelligence within it, you are going to release that intelligence and allow it to express. Even the horse knew that it was right. One of my favorite stories to tell, because people say, well, it's psychosomatic stuff, it's placebo, these are anecdotal stories. People want to believe that chiropractic helps, they were convinced before they come, all these things. Tell me that horse was convinced, that horse had preconceived ideas or had pre-education about it. The horse knew that it was right, and the horse thanked me in his own way. And it was one of the most powerful stories that I've ever been able to tell to the true power of chiropractic. I hope you enjoyed this story as much as I love telling it. I've told it a million times, and I'll probably tell you a million more before I pass one day, because it was just absolutely a beautiful expression of life and a connection between two people and a horse, two entities, two souls at that moment, and forever I will be connected to that moment. I hope you all have an amazing day. I love you all. If there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. Talk to you soon. Bye.